live, so well, not live, but we're recording. So we have a guest with us today. Want to introduce yourself, Rich?
My name's Rich Pyott.
Okay. So you're a coach and a photographer, right?
Yeah, yes. I coach wrestling for the Junior Raiders, and I do photography as well.
And you were in the Navy, is that correct?
Yes.
As a corpsman.
Yes.
Okay. So I met Rich actually pretty early on. You were taking pictures at Pottstown,
I think it was the Pottstown Inn.
and he had a conversation with Susan that reminded me a lot of like my coach. Like there was a lot of respect there. He said, "Can I talk to her?" And he started to talk to her, and I really wish that she had time with you before she went to high school, because I think that the time that she went to practice with you, she absolutely enjoyed it. So I asked Rich if he wanted to come up, knowing that you're a coach, and just talk about whatever. Kind of what we do. We don't really have a curriculum or criteria.
A
to talk
template,
about.
yeah. We just talk.
So what started you in wrestling?
When I was a kid, I lived in Bridesburg, and we had the Bridesburg Boys and Girls Club, and I was terrible at basketball. My coach would be, go out there and foul that guy 5 times, don't let him score, and he figured that was 10 points they weren't getting. That was, good for me, and they started doing a wrestling program, and at first it was in-house. It wasn't even anything big or whatever. And shortly after that, I don't know if you remember the Foxcatcher Wrestling Club, they started reaching out to a lot of different areas in the city trying to start youth wrestling. And the Boys and Girls Club of Philadelphia was one of the areas that they had touched. And there was a guy, Gene, I haven't seen him since, and I wish I knew what happened to him or what his last name was. He started doing real wrestling for real at the Boys and Girls Club. And we didn't have matches or anything like that. We were just wrestling. And one day he brought Dave Schultz down, and that, he was standing there with the medal. He brought his medal, and that was exciting. And shortly thereafter, the Boys and Girls Club merged with the Police Athletic League, and that's when we started wrestling for real with matches and stuff like that. And that's where I started my wrestling.
A lot of people, when they hear the name Dave Schultz, they don't think of the Olympic wrestler, the medal-winning wrestler. They think of the pro hockey player.
Oh.
All right. I saw the Foxcatcher movie, and I remember the story. I remember reading about it in the news, and how stunning it was. How his life ended. But they don't know how great an athlete that guy actually was.
Yeah. They did. All the negatives of that aside, I don't want to go down that road, but they really did a lot for youth wrestling in this area for sure.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, I didn't start until high school, and it was kind of like the football season was over, and I had friends from football that wrestled, and they needed a heavyweight, and I was pretty agile, and I lost every match my first year, and that's kind of what I try to tell my daughter, you're going to lose a lot, because it's experience. You're going to go up against people that are more experienced. And then my coach pretty much changed my thinking and trajectory. He's really, I wish I remember this. I'm talking about 30 years ago, but he changed my attitude on a lot of things. And it was the first year I lost my first match, and then he said, just wrestle me. He was an excellent wrestler, and he was struggling with me. He's like, you're strong, you're agile. He's like, now we just have to get your skills down and your technique down. He said, because I could shoot for a heavyweight.
Right.
So which is pretty
Athletic.
big. Usually they just run into each other and
lean on each other for 6 minutes, and
until one of them gets tired.
Whoever catches a headlock or an arm hook or something, yeah.
Yeah, and but I could do the double leg really well in the fireman, and then I started to just win after that. It just changed the way I thought about things. And
I think watching 2 actual heavyweights that can wrestle, and it's a very, I don't know if it's poetic is the right word, but it's an awe-inspiring thing to watch guys that large, that athletic against each other, hitting moves like that. It's really, it's one of my favorite things to watch, is 2 heavyweights that can actually wrestle.
So, when you talk about heavyweights, Carellin and Rulon Gardner come to mind to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think of Carellin. Carellin is, in my mind, the most dominant athlete in history, regardless, across all sports.
Yeah, when I did a little bit of the strength training coaching with the girls team, their heavyweight is phenomenal. She just needs the skill. I mean, she's about 30 pounds lighter than everybody else, and she's twice as strong, and she's agile. And I think if she sticks with it, she can definitely be a scholarship athlete. She's brutal. Like, she could definitely keep up. So I hope that she definitely sticks with that. Now, you wrestled all through high school. Did you do any college?
When I wrestled in high school, my college didn't happen until I was an adult.
Where did you go to high school?
Frankfurt High School here in Philadelphia,
What year did you graduate?
1991.
Young people. Just you bring me babies. young man.
You had a pretty kids running in the background. You had a pretty solid career though in high school, right?
Oh yeah. I was at Frankfurt High School. I was the first 3-time champ. So, and then after me, they started getting more and more kids from the youth wrestling program, and that really the wrestlers from PAL branched off. They either went to North Catholic or they went to Frankfurt for the most part, and both of those teams were able to build a highly successful high school wrestling culture and team that won probably more than anyone else.
Who was your high school coach?
A guy named Mr. Peffel. Mr. Peffel also coached soccer at LaSalle, and he ended up coaching baseball at Frankfurt as well.
What did he teach?
Geometry and gym.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Did you do anything for like the city? Like I know I wrestled for the city after a little.
No,
high school.
they really didn't have anything like that. After so I wrestled in back then it was the AAUs before it became the Mawas, and I did very well in the AAUs.
Okay, and did you go directly into the Navy afterwards, or?
Yeah, so I graduated high school. I was 17. I had to wait a while to actually get in. They gave me a waiver. I actually turned 18 in boot camp. So the waiver they wouldn't do it until then. Plus the job I had picked took a long time to open up. So
What exactly was the job?
well, I went in as a dive-farer, but I didn't make it. So I ended up as a corpsman.
So what is a corpsman? What exactly does a corpsman do?
Corpsman's a medic, you know. So in the Navy, the Marines don't have their own medical that's provided to them by the Navy. So as a corpsman, you can go either in a hospital on shore, you can go on a ship, you can go with the Marines. So
How many years were you in?
4 years. I did my 4.
Okay, very cool.
So what did you choose to go with? The hospital or Marines? Or?
So so as I said, I didn't make it, and I had my choices were handed to me a little bit. When you don't make it, you really don't get much choice. I ended up over at San Diego Naval Medical Center, and many of us that didn't make it ended up over at the San Diego Medical Center, and I ended up working in the ER.
Okay. So, was your experience with that good, or I mean, did you try to continue afterwards, EMT or anything? Or?
No, so this was the problem with being a corpsman was, you know, while I was in the Navy, they taught us to do femoral cut downs, open heart massage. You know, I started thousands of IVs. I did hundreds and hundreds of sutures on children, chin lacs, eye lacs, quite a few advanced procedures. And then the day you get out of the Navy, you're not even qualified to take a blood pressure. There's no civilian equivalent for it. I did have my EMT license because I worked in the ER and we had to drive the ambulance off base to pick people up sometimes. But back then, even EMTs, you know, they were known as jerry carts. You just were driving old people from nursing home to appointments, and that was like $8 an hour back then. It wasn't much of a career path. So I wouldn't say my experience was wasted, or you know, but it definitely was a problem for corpsmen, and they addressed it somewhat with the PA program that was created. Physician's Assistance Program was created for corpsmen, specifically IDC corpsmen, independent duty corpsmen, who were basically doctors that were corpsmen that would get assigned to themselves, like either on a smaller ship or an outskirt base or a clinic somewhere, and they had what a PA has now, basically. So they created the PA program to help IDC corpsmen transition from the Navy to a job in the real world with their skills.
It's pretty much the same for radio, and as you can tell by the sound quality, my radio technique is not as good as it used to be. So what did you do when you got out?
Oh, I wondered. When I first got out, I was working as a bartender and a shuttle driver at the airport in San Diego. And after about 6 months of that, and still hanging out with my friends and stuff, I was renting a room off somebody and working 12, 14 hours a day, and I'm like, I'm not getting anywhere. San Diego is not the place to be. As beautiful as San Diego is, as much as I love San Diego and wish I was living there now, it's unsustainable as far as affordability, unless you're very fortunate. So after that, a friend of mine who had moved to Florida, I went down there and was staying with him, and then started as a car salesman in Florida, and did very well at that for quite a few years.
So when did you get back into wrestling? Like, when were you doing it yourself, or did you just go right into coaching?
No, so after Florida, I moved to Vegas for a while, and then it was in Vegas for a while, and then I was in LA for a little bit, and then I went back to Bloomsburg, Pennsylvania, and went to college there. My parents live up in Maineville, which is close to the Bloomsburg. And after college, I moved back to Philadelphia, and that's when I started volunteering at PAL again, and did 3 years there. And then had a kid, got married, and got a job traveling, and that took a while. It was about close to 15 years maybe. And then while I was working, I was injured on a job, and that put me off of working, and I had time, so I took the time I was given and put it towards coaching wrestling, as much as I could towards the wrestling.
What's the certification process for coaching wrestling?
So,
like, I see you're wearing a USA Wrestling shirt.
excuse me. So for we're in what's the league is called the ICWL, the Inter-County Wrestling League. In order to be a sanctioned coach for a team in that league, you have to go through USA Wrestling's Safe Sport. You have to go through their background checks. That's the certification process. Now, there are other...
So it's just Safe Sport and the background checks is it? That's all you need?
Yes, but USA Wrestling does offer certifications, and I have the certifications. So that's on the coach themselves to get them done. It's not...
So anybody can coach.
Sure.
But not all coaches are equal.
Sure. I would agree with that statement. We have, I always say, listen, any parent that gets their certifications and wants to be in a room, it's our responsibility as coaches to teach them how to coach. If they're going to take the time and they're going to go through, it's a small threshold to cross, but you'd be surprised at how many people tell me, oh, I want to help out, I want to help out. I'm like, great, go. We have an extra hurdle because the Catholic school lets us use their facilities, so we have to meet the Catholic school's certification process for safety, backgrounds and stuff. There's a class you have to take for the archdiocese. So it's a little extra hurdle, but it's an important hurdle, and you'd be surprised at how many people that small of a hurdle, it stops. It's a barrier into becoming a coach because they just, I don't have 3 hours to go do that class. Well, you don't want to give hours and hours a week helping kids. Well, you got to go to the class, and it limits people.
I mean, I as a hockey coach, I know USA Hockey. For me to get certified for USA Hockey, I got to spend a weekend taking classes. So we have level 1, level 2, level 3, level 4, level 5. So you're required every year to go to the next level, at least up until 4. You don't have to. You're not required to go to 5, but once you reach 4, you're still doing continuing ed. And you're still doing Safe Sport every year. You're still doing the background checks every 2 years or whatever that is. So you're required to be educated in how to coach the game.
So wrestling, I don't know the philosophy or theory behind what they do, but I have my teal certificate, which means I'm certified to coach girls because I have girls on the team. I thought it was important to get that. I have copper and bronze. I have those. But in order to get the silver, you actually have to. It costs a decent amount of money, and then you have to go through their classes. You have to travel somewhere, and then for the gold, you pretty much have to be a Olympic or college level coach to get gold. Where silver is probably college and maybe some high schools could qualify for the silver. So it's a little higher, it's a little more in depth. And I'll tell you, the copper and the bronze courses are important, and I think that every club should have at least one person in their organization to go through the certification.
The level 5, I'm pretty sure you have to travel to Minnesota for. I think that's
I
the
don't
that's
know
the
if it's-
only place. That's the only place you can go. I mean, for hockey, that's what it is. And like you said, not everybody can afford that.
I think the USA Wrestling may rotate between facilities depending on what's going on with the Olympics and the under the Worlds and stuff like that. I don't know for sure. I haven't looked that far into it because it's not something that I'm able to do.
Yeah, I mean, USA Hockey may travel as well. I mean, they might do it in Boston as well. But same thing. It's something you're going to travel and pay for. Yeah.
And I can vouch. I mean, Rich is a phenomenal coach. His kids have a great time. He brings it. He's humble. But like he reminded me of my coach. It kind of changed my trajectory in life. And I wish that my daughter wrestled in middle school because
you never know how you impact kids.
Yeah, he's phenomenal. So I can definitely agree that not all coaches are created equal. What do you think your biggest hurdle is as a coach?
That's a good question. Well, let's be fair. Wrestling's not a sport that is watched on television by 80 million people weekly throughout the year. It's there aren't lines of kids wanting to try out for wrestling like there is football or baseball or I'm not sure how hockey is, but so it's a sport that I consider and many people consider, maybe because we do it, maybe not. Wrestling is probably, I think it is. It's the toughest sport there is. It's you're going out there and you are literally in combat with rules. Somebody's trying to hold you down against your will. In order to be successful at wrestling, you have to work. You cannot, I don't care how talented you are, you cannot just show up on game day, walk out there, look good, get your pictures taken, post a TikTok reel, and walk out. There are hours and hours and hours of work that have to go into your, as a kid, 3-minute match, and as a young adult, 6-minute matches. It's just, it's not something that, it's not like baseball. You can't just grab a bat, go out there, and knock a ball around. You have to do that. So for me, trying to convince an 8-year-old that has talent in the sport that is crying because he just got whooped on either in practice or the match or whatever, that they wrestled, you wrestled the best match you wrestled. Yeah, coach, I lost. It doesn't matter that you lost. That was a great wrestling match. So for wrestling, we lose not a lot of kids, but we probably have a lot of kids that won't come out for it because of the stigma that it's pretty hard. It's a hard sport, and you have to work out.
So
you have to work hard.
you're talking about the hours and hours of practice. Have you read Gladwell's book Outliers?
No.
All right. So in his book, he surmises that it takes 10,000 hours of practice or work to be at the very highest level, at the pinnacle of any profession
I'm familiar with the concept, yeah.
or any sport. And then, then there's different levels. Then, 7,500 hours is the next level, and then 6,000 hours, and so on and so forth. I believe it's fairly true. I believe it works out in more cases than it doesn't.
I think so. I think you're right. But I think with wrestling, what you're doing with your time is probably more important than the raw amount of time.
Yeah.
You can come in a wrestling room and shoot wrong for 5 hours a week. Well, when you go wrestle, that hole, I call them holes in your wrestling, is going to be exposed by somebody that's prepared to catch that hole. So while I do agree that the more time, there's a direct correlation between your success in anything with the amount of time that you put in studying your craft, whatever it is. And in wrestling, you can study it all you want, but you still have to go out there and
It's the quality of time.
I think the
quality
is very
It's
important.
the quality of that time. Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Yeah, I can completely agree with that. I mean, just watching this season, you see that, certain teams, the kids are getting, stuff maybe like their first week. They don't know how to stop it. There's somebody shooting in. And then you see teams that are progressing or working on that stuff, and they become so much more efficient at it. And then you see the other team that may be good at headlocks or like a hip toss or something, but they still can't stuff somebody shooting in, which is important. Like they're not working on those basics for the foundation.
As a coach, the longer I'm in the ICWL and the more I'm coaching each individual matches when it's going on, we'll have, pardon me, on a Saturday, we'll have 250 to 300 individual matches that go on 3 to 4 to 5 mats that are coached. You start getting a feel for what style each individual club coaches, and it helps you prepare your kids for it. But there is definitely a meta in wrestling, and it's a big, huge circle. It's like a rock, paper, scissors, lizard, Spock, shotgun, waterfall. It's just there's this counters this counters this counters this counters. It's a gigantic, huge circle. Wrestling's over 10,000 years old. You're not inventing a new move. There's no new move going to be invented. But there might be a move that nobody's tried in a while because it was well defended for such a long time. It slipped through the cracks and people, kind of let it go. And we saw that last year with a lot of tilts. In the very beginning of the seasons, somebody, I'm not going to mention the name, and on the world stage was very successful with tilts. And that was all the rage on TikTok. That was all the rage on YouTube. And out there, all these kids are trying to hit the tilts. So it just took a couple weeks for the meta to catch up and teach people how to defend that tilt, which is actually very easy to defend against. And then once that started happening, that goes away. So as the coach, we wrestle, the junior Raiders wrestle year round now. As a coach, I got early vision of what was happening during the summer, wrestling up at the SEPA when they have wrestling events. So this year there's a couple things that we're going to have to work on different from last year because it's in the meta.
And I think it's the same with any kind of combat sport, to be honest with you. Like, nothing in combat is new. Nothing in martial arts is new. It's been the same since the Shaolin monks, since the Indians, since the Egyptians. And you're right. It's just something slips through. Leg kicks for a while in the UFC were like, everybody's like, oh, look at everybody utilizing them. They've been around. Muay Thai fighters have been doing leg kicks. They've been around since the Romans. But they just came back to it. Now it's defending it and conditioning yourself against it.
Yeah, so we only have so much time on this planet. You can't, you can, learn everything and master none. I don't know if I believe that. Sometimes you just have to be aware of something. You don't have to be a master of it, but you can be aware of it, and you're good enough in the rest of what you do that you're able to defend against it if you're aware of it. If you don't know if you've never seen it before, next thing you know, you're getting rolled back in a spladle. You're like, whoa, what happened? And that's so this is the problem we have with youth wrestling with kids. We don't teach headlocks. We don't teach cement mixers. We don't teach all these catch the kid doing something wrong and pin them real fast thing, because then our kids aren't learning how to wrestle. I don't care. You go out there and headlock 100 kids. Great, good for you. First time a kid dodges your headlock and takes you down, you're not going to know what you're doing. So it is frustrating because there are people out there that just, I call it the Cobra Kai mentality, from the Karate Kid. Got to win at all costs. It don't matter what happens, just go out there and win. So we have to teach our kids how to defend against those types of things without focusing on teaching the kids to do those things, because it's very addictive when you can go out there, headlock a kid and pin him in 20 seconds and look like a hero.
Now, what do you normally concentrate on with somebody who's just starting wrestling?
Believe it or not, as hard as wrestling is, I want the kids to have fun, because they are kids, and if it's not fun, they're not going to do it. And I like to so I've only been doing this for 3 years, so the retention part, I track everything. So I don't know what my patterns are yet on retention. I think they're okay. Everything can always be better. But when for instance, I got a lot of messages this year from parents with 3-year-olds that, hey, I have a 3-year-old. Can my 3-year-old wrestle? Well, the answer is maybe. Maybe. Are they fully 100% potty trained? And if that answer is no, then no, they cannot wrestle. Can't keep our mat safe if we have to clean up doo-doo and, so then the next thing is, how long is a 10-year-old's attention span nowadays, let alone a 3-year-old's attention span? So we have a couple, and what we do is I tell the parents, look, we'll try them out, and if they can't make it through, no harm, no foul, we'll try again next year. Now, do I think any 3-year-olds are going to be state champions this year? No. So we usually let them warm up, and then they run out to the mall, or excuse me, run out to the hall and sit on their mom's lap anyway. So this year, I think we have one 3-year-old that might be sticking with it because his brother wrestles. So early on, let's say you get some kid that's 5, 6 years old. That's a great time. 4 years old, if they're mature 4-year-olds, that's a great time to start because we can get all them bad habits out of them before they do anything else. And I mean bad habits as far as behavior and understanding the wrestling culture. And believe it or not, the parents have to be trained too for wrestling. Taking your kid to a tournament that's going to last from 6:30 in the morning weigh-ins till 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and your kid wrestled twice is hard, and it's hard on everybody. And parents have to learn how to navigate those things as well. So.
Nelly, your cousin was a wrestler, right? Didn't you train him in strength?
Yeah,
conditioning?
I did my cousin's son, his strength and conditioning from middle school through high school. Sophomore year of high school, I believe he pinned the #1 kid in the state of New Jersey in his weight class, and then went on to wrestle at North Carolina and Rutgers. Yeah, and today he's a pro bodybuilder. He transitioned from college wrestling into pro bodybuilding, which I think was just a natural progression. The discipline, the dieting, all that was just a natural progression.
Now, do you see any crossover between like his wrestling experiences and your hockey experiences, or any of your coaching, really, powerlifting, anything?
Well, he trained in a group where we started out inside of Sensei David's small karate studio on Daymar Drive, and we had 7 kids, and all 7 of those kids went on to play high-level college sports. And without a doubt, he was the toughest of the group. I mean, like you said, wrestling is a tough sport. It's a hard sport to sustain and to put the work in. And that kid was a tough nut. I mean, at 150 pounds, he was flipping a 750-pound tire by himself at the end of training. And to put that in perspective, I'd have to get 3 kids to flip that tire together, and he was doing it by himself at 150 pounds. So he was a bear for anybody to have to manage, because he had the skill and he had the training, and then on top of it, now he had the strength. So he was a real bear to have to manage and handle. But what all 7 of those kids have in common is they were very mentally strong, and they stayed with their training even when they were in season. There was no, I'm in season, coach. I can't, I'll be back in the spring, or I'll be back in the fall. They trained while they were in season, and that's why they ended up at the places they got to go.
And wrestling just gives you that mindset. Like after I wrestled, like I said, I'm going to say it again, I changed, and it just made things, I don't want to say easier for me, but it made the hardships that I was going through easier to cope with. You know what I mean? It's the physical side, the mental side. Because you're right, there's nothing like you're exhausted. I'm a heavyweight. I got somebody who cut weight probably dangerously in the 90s to get there, then blew up to 300 pounds, and I was like 230 then, and I was a chubby kid, and all their weight's on you, you're tired, you're in an uncomfortable position, somebody's got your head, somebody's got your leg.
Well, I mean, I used to tell the kids, you have to get comfortable being uncomfortable.
Yes,
you want to be successful.
That's 100%.
Yeah, get comfortable being uncomfortable if you want to be successful.
And I tell my daughter that. I say, just do uncomfortable things. If you're not comfortable with it, within reason, like you have to do it. Like it's not everything's going to feel good, and it's a muscle. It's a muscle that you work, that resilience through that.
Well, I know as a wrestler, I didn't care what was wrong. You're gonna have to kill me. I'm wrestling. I don't tape it up. So as a coach now, on the other side, it's my job to keep them kids safe, because there are quite a few kids that I'm familiar with that feel that way, and those people in this generation do exist. They just have fewer and fewer outlets to be themselves with that mentality. It's a tough mentality to have, and I'm very happy that wrestling's around to provide that for those kids that find wrestling that have that mentality.
And they're also kind of told that that's wrong, like aspects of that mentality too, like that toughness and that want for competition, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with it. That's what gets you ready for life's hardships. you spend, an extra 20 hours a week or more doing wrestling, you know what I mean? And then you go and have a bad day at work. It kind of crosses over to me.
Well, what I love is somebody wins and somebody loses. They're not all the same.
100%.
Somebody wins, somebody loses. There's no, you're not getting a medal just for showing up. I love that.
Yeah, so I tell my kids, I say, listen, when you step on the mat and you wrestle your first wrestling match, you're already better than 98% of the people that ever walked the face of the earth because you're a wrestler now. Now you are a wrestler. I don't care if you won, you lost, if you ever wrestle again, when you wrestle that first wrestling match, you took all that fear, all that anxiety, everything you had, and you said, I don't care. And you walked out on the mat, and you put your foot on the line, and the ref blew the whistle. I don't care if you got pinned in 2 seconds. I don't care if you rolled around for 10 minutes. I don't care if you won. You accomplished something that most people will never, ever experience in their life, and that's going out there against somebody that is going to physically manipulate you against your will. People can't even handle being told something against their will, let alone being physically manipulated against their will.
Most people, 98% of most people are not even passionate enough about anything to go out and put themselves out to do anything and risk failing at something. They're not passionate about anything.
You're right. I remember shaking every match until that whistle blew. You know what I mean? And again, like any sport, but I think wrestling in particular, it's you acknowledge those feelings, but you don't let them take over. You kind of use them. You know what I mean? And then like the calm kind of came over. Like again, when that whistle blew, and then like that energy was there, but it turned into something else. And I think any of that, even with hockey, like I've never played hockey on that level.
Hockey it was taken or given the first hit. Once the first hit or the first collision was out of the way.
One of my favorite movies and one of my favorite lines from a favorite movie is a movie called The Cutting Edge. Did you ever see that
Yeah,
movie?
I saw that. Yeah.
He says, yeah, I always feel like I'm going to throw up for like the first 10 minutes. And she's like, our program's only 2 minutes long.
That was DB Sweeney, I think,
DB
right?
Sweeney,
Right? Yeah. Yep.
That was something that I explained to my daughter. Like when she would go out, she's like, I'm scared. I'm like, it's okay. Every football game, every boxing match, every kickboxing match, I was sick to my stomach up until it started. And like the first hit in boxing or kickboxing, you know what I mean? Like the whistle blowing in wrestling, the first, collision in football, every single game. Like you just don't let it take over.
Well, Bill Russell, a Hall of Fame basketball player, I think threw up before every playoff game. That guy, he would be the last one out of the room because he'd be in the bathroom puking before the game. Nerves.
I have 3 sons myself, and they're all incredibly different. Even though they live in the same house, have most of the same teachers, same parents, same food, they're so different. And I teach all of them, and I try to bring it to the wrestling room as well for the little guys, is fear is okay. Can't be afraid of fear. Fear is your body telling you something is wrong, something is different, something could happen. It's what you do with that fear that's the important part. If you don't let that fear tell you what to do, that's when you overcome the fear. But you can't hide the fear. You can't walk away from the fear. You can't deny the fear. You have no control over what you're afraid of. But you can mitigate your actions after you experience the fear. And that's why I think wrestling, after wrestling for a long time, I'm not scared of many people at all. I feel confident that I'm going to be okay no matter what. But that doesn't mean the spidey senses don't go off sometimes. And that helps. That helps me control what I can control when what's going on around me. And the same thing at work. Because some people experience fear at work. Is my boss going to holler at me? It's going to be okay. Am I going to break something? If you're a mechanic, what if I break this part? It's $1,000 part. It's going to be okay. So I do think wrestling helps with that fear. I think I got off topic a little bit there.
We often do, to be honest with you.
I kept it a lot shorter with my kids. We just said, God hates a coward. We put it right there. God hates a coward. Go do it.
Now, you have your own business now, right?
The photography, yes.
Yeah, he's a great photographer, too. I've seen some of the pictures of sports photography he does. Is that exclusive? Like, not exclusively. Is that what you mostly do is the sports?
Whatever anyone wants to hand me money for pictures, I'll do. No, I love doing the sports. I played football. I wrestled. I pole vaulted. I've been around. I coached baseball. My son plays baseball. I've been around most sports well enough that I can position myself to catch good shots, especially in wrestling. I know it's funny when you get older and you get coached, the match starts moving in slow motion. I'm fortunate enough to know enough about wrestling to catch the good shots. I love doing like urban architecture pictures. I make prints. I sell some of those. I'll shoot a wedding. I'll shoot a birthday. I'll shoot anything. I love. It's hard. I can't draw, can't sing, can't paint. But through the photography, I feel like I'm an artist when I do my photography, and I try to bring that out in a bit of everything that I do when I shoot.
How old are your kids?
My oldest is 15, my middle is 13, and my youngest is 12.
So I heard you say one plays baseball. What other sports do they play?
So they've all played baseball at least one season. My youngest loves baseball. He's pretty good at baseball. My oldest loves baseball. He's pretty good at baseball. They got into wrestling later. My oldest played football. He's not pursuing football anymore. My youngest played football, but we had a change of leagues this year. So he's short and he's smaller. He's 12. He weighs 85, 95 pounds. He can't play pound. We had a pound ball league. It's gone. He can't play unlimited because then he'll play against kids like my 13-year-old who's 5'11", 275 pounds.
Yeah.
I can't have my 95-pound son trying to play football in an unlimited league. So unfortunately, he's not going to play football this year, and probably maybe high school if he gets big enough. So.
Okay.
Have they ever tried martial arts?
No. I don't have anything against martial arts or jiu-jitsu or sambo. I did sambo when I was in high school. I don't have anything against it. I think you can direct that energy towards wrestling when you're young because you have the outlet of being able to go to a tournament and wrestle. And then when you're an adult, I think that's a perfect time to transition into the martial arts.
So going back to photography, what brought you to that?
When I was in the Navy, I was going to Antarctica, and my grandma gave me a camera. It was an old camera, old film camera with old lenses. And I went to a couple classes in San Diego and learned how to shoot with it. And then I went to Antarctica, and I took pictures that just were, fantastic, beautiful, loved it, loved taking the pictures. And then it kind of got away, and then I had time that I never had for the last 30 years or so, and I just picked up a cheap camera, started taking pictures, and worked my way up to better cameras and taking better pictures and started getting paid for it. And I like it. I think I'm good at it, and I think it's a good artistic outlet, and it's a good way to make a living. It's a tough way to make a living because there's 10,000 people with a camera that are offering to do your wedding for $100.
And everybody's got an iPhone now.
Yeah. But there's a place for it, and I think one of the things I do that sets myself apart is I bought photo labs, so I have photo lab printers. I print my own stuff. So I take the picture, I edit the picture, I print the picture. If that picture doesn't look like I want it to look like, it's my fault. There's no lab intervening. There's no, the print came back bad, I have to send it away, wait another 4 weeks. So I get a pretty good turnaround with my stuff when someone wants something quick. But I guess that's just as an outlet with time.
Somebody shooting a hockey puck.
You're in a rink.
When did you transition to try to make that a job? Like what gave you that kind of motivation? What made you think about that?
Just I saw a need for it. I think with a lot of the youth sports, there's a lot of photographers that huddle around professional sports. A lot of photographers huddle around high school sports. But I didn't see many. When I was coaching football, I didn't see many photographers following the pound ball leagues and the little leagues and stuff like that. So I thought that would be a pretty good opening to try to get in there.
He does shoot a really good picture. They are really good.
Thank you.
I mean, it looks like stuff that you used to read in Sports
So
Illustrated.
he shoot? Did he do the junior for
Not
Ryan?
the girls' team photos, but he did action photos.
Okay.
And some of the action photos that I sent you were
Gotcha.
his. And he catches it really good. really good shot. So what you want to talk? Is there anything that you want to talk about? Is there any?
I don't know. I think I'm a pretty boring guy, so I don't.
So
What
far.
what do you do? What do you do to condition your kids for wrestling, especially the high schoolers? I mean, what do you do? What are
So
they
I-
what are they doing to condition themselves for sports, or what do your kids do to condition themselves?
So
for,
I don't.
for
I
the
don't.
sport?
I don't coach the high school team, but for the little guys, we do the typical wrestling conditioning at the end of practice. So our time is very limited. We have, even though for the first time last year we had practice 5 nights a week. So that was the first time we had done that. This year we're going to continue that, but we still only have an hour and 15 minutes because I have a novice session, then we have a break, and then we have the intermediate session. So we have to get a lot of stuff in, and our team, our practices really don't start till the first week in November because down here in Philadelphia, the culture for wrestling is not the same as it is for the rest of the state. So we have a lot of multi-sport athletes. I'm not saying that that doesn't exist in other places, but when you get to the top echelons of, either the Keystone Games or PJWs, where kids are competing in state level tournaments, most of those wrestlers do nothing else except wrestle. The city of Philadelphia, I got kids that play football, I got kids that play basketball, and I got kids that play baseball, lacrosse. So for our season, I really don't get most of my kids until November, the first week, second week in November.
Do you think that's indicative of parents who are searching for scholarship and look at wrestling as a sport that they're like, I as a hockey coach, as a parent, I've seen parents use the sport as an avenue towards scholarship, and that's what they're looking for. And it's I don't know what the scholarship opportunities are in wrestling, but I know how hard it is in hockey.
Well, for wrestling, there's 13 slots, 14 slots. Do your best. There you go.
Yep.
Now, how many, schools like Penn State that will have 40 deep, kids that know they're never going to ever step on the mat in a Penn State uniform for Penn State. They go there and they wrestle there because they want to wrestle with the best, regardless. Mm-hmm. That's the mentality that is hard to transition from with people that don't. I don't want to say they don't understand, but it's not the winning that defines your success in wrestling. Yes, it can be an indicator, but it's not everything. That's not what makes you a good wrestler. So as far as college scholarship opportunities, I don't know. I don't, like I said, I'm not involved with the high school, but there's not that. I think there's probably less football teams than there is basketball, or wrestling teams than there is basketball teams or football teams or whatever. But I will tell you one area where I think it is highly readily available, and that's women's wrestling.
Okay, so what's the cost for a wrestling season?
For us, last year it was $225.
Dollars. $225.
That gave you your warm-up pants and your warm-up shirt. That covered your USA Wrestling membership. That covered all 7 of your wrestling matches and your end-of-the-year championship tournament.
A hockey season right now is running between $5,000 and $9,000. Doesn't include your equipment. Doesn't include your tournaments. It includes your practices and your regular season games, and that's it.
Now you're not like you train the kids at Ryan, right? But it can be any kid from the city, correct?
Absolutely, yeah. So we are very, very fortunate that when they started the program at Ryan, the coaches had enough foresight. I think a lot of them had come from PAL as well, before their high school days. They had enough foresight to say, hey, while we're starting this team, let's get a junior team going as well. And they did. And that team last year, it was their 10th year as a junior Raider Wrestling Club. And that I came on. This will be my 3rd year as the head coach. So I came on 4 years ago, but they've been around much longer than me. They started it, and anyone could go. We have kids that come from the Junior Raiders to wrestle for Ben Salem, wrestle for Judge, wrestle for Roman, wrestle for Ryan. Now, ultimately, of course, we would love to have the wrestlers that come through our program that learn our way and our mentality and our culture of wrestling, we would love to have them come to Ryan, but ultimately it's not up to us. It's up to their parents where they're going to go to school.
Now, Philadelphia being a bunch of different neighborhoods, I mean, each neighborhood seems to have a little bit of a different culture. Do you ever have problems with the families and the kids with that?
No, I don't think we have cultural problems like Mayfair and Bridesburg or Chalfont and Parkwood, stuff like that. I don't think that is a problem. I think it's an interesting time because I know that there's a lot of youth teams popping up now, and I don't want to say popping up in negative. I mean they're coming. I would love to see all Philadelphia wrestling. You know, I wish every neighborhood had a wrestling team, and hopefully we get there. And there are Beat the Streets is part of the Beat the Streets and Police Athletic League, Father Judge Crusaders, Archbishop Ryan Jr. Raiders. I know Coach Walt is starting at something at Girard College. I know St. Joe's Prep is starting something. So I know Roman was doing some classes down at the Bridesburg Boys and Girls Club on the same mats that I wrestled at when I was a kid. And me and my father built those boxes when I was a kid that those mats are in. So it's I think the city of Philadelphia wrestling is on its way up, and I to borrow a line from John Kenny, you know, a rising tide lifts all boats, and I think that that's a great thing for the city of Philadelphia and Pennsylvania as a state as a whole for wrestling. I mean, Pennsylvania is top notch wrestling for the country. It just is what it is. It's not the same in other states as it is Pennsylvania.
And I like the fact that Philly's coming up because when I started, boxing was everywhere, but like wrestling really wasn't kind of like till high school. There was very few outlets other than high school.
What year was that for you, Bill?
That was my junior year too. That was '96.
I mean, that was probably a product of some great Philly fighters making boxing popular in that at that age, at that time. I mean, Olympic boxers coming out of Philly were Meldrick Taylor, you know, became a world champ, you know. So I would imagine boxing would be popular being.
Well, I know from what I was told was boxing was huge in the police athletic leagues in the Palace. Mm-hmm. And then for whatever reason, insurance companies decided not to insure boxing anymore.
Concussions.
And then it switched over to, that's when they started the wrestling team.
And yeah, well, boxing was big because it was cheap. You know what I mean? You're really just paying for your coach. You need a couple sets of gloves and a ring.
Wrestling's exceptionally cheap.
Yeah.
Yeah, a pair of sneakers and headgear.
Oh, holy shit, if I knew that.
Yeah.
And I really wish I got to wrestling earlier, but you can see the difference between the city. The city's coming up. Like, just looking at Lincoln coming back and wrestling when my daughter was going to these tournaments, I mean, they're so much better than they were then. But, like, even the further west you go in Pennsylvania, the more brutal those kids get when it comes to wrestling.
Our city wrestlers experience it in the States tournaments for sure. And it is, you know, Pennsylvania, if you look at what happened at Fargo this year, Pennsylvania wrecked everybody. It's different. It's hard to explain. And it starts with the culture. It really does. It starts with the understanding. If I want to be a wrestler, I got to get up at 5:30. I got to eat right. I got to hit my workout and my shower before school. And we are huge with you're student first. It's student athlete, student first. Even my little guys on the junior Raiders, if their mom and dad tell me that they got bad report cards, they can't wrestle. You have to be. You're not going to be a successful wrestler and not be smart. So the best wrestlers are geniuses because what happens when you get to the pinnacle of your wrestling career and the guy you're wrestling, he started wrestling at 4, you started wrestling at 4. He works out every day since he was 4. You work out every day since you were 4. He's got the best wrestling coaches in the world. You got the best wrestling coaches in the world. He conditions as much as you condition. What makes the difference in the match? The chess match, the brain.
Yeah. But, you know, and to take that a step further, eventually it ends. Then what? You know, I see in hockey, I see parents who dump thousands and hundreds of thousands of dollars into their kids for hockey in pursuit of a scholarship. And then when the sport's over, when they either don't make it or, you know, they reach their end of the line, they didn't focus on their education. So now what? You know, where are they? What are they going to do for a living? Where are they going to go to school? What are they going to do? They're done.
So I know that the young man last year that was tops at Ryan was on the wrestling team. So it's academically. So and I know the wrestling team in high school had a very high GPA average, and you have to. That's what this world's all about. If you can take the brains that you get from studying in school with the tenacity and the go get 'em that you're going to get from wrestling, you're going to be a good young man or a young woman, and that's the goal. That's what we want. We want to make good young men, good young women to lead and take charge of society.
And I think intelligence does play a part with a lot of sports that people don't realize. I remember when I first went to college for my first degree, psychology, I had a sports psychology class, and there was an older lady, probably my age now, but I remember bringing in my playbook. I played college football and showing them and she's like, you have to remember all this. And I said, yeah, that's part of it. And then she just thought she was going to go into this psychology class and thought most people were dumb cavemen who do sports. And I'm like, no, are there dumb people in sports? Absolutely. But the vast majority of people I play with in football, that I wrestled with, are honor roll students. They're intelligent people. You know what I mean? Now, college is a little bit tougher because it becomes more like a job. Like, I'd get up at 5, do conditioning. You know what I mean? Then do a practice. Then it would be midday, my conditioning. Then it would be the end of the day. You know what I mean? Just a walk through a practice. And then you're getting home at 7 or 8 o'clock at night. And then you're trying to do your homework and study for the tests that are going on. But that is like the biggest misunderstanding that people have that don't play sports and aren't in competition.
I mean, my son was in addition to playing, he played on his high school hockey team. He played club hockey, and he was on the chess team at school for sophomore through senior year. He was the #1 high school chess player junior year and senior year in the city. So and he was able to carry that over to college at Navy and played chess his plebe year, but eventually had to. Hockey's a huge commitment at Navy. So to your point, had to narrow things down, but that stayed with him, and that carries over to the sport. Whatever the sport is, it is a chess match. So he's a kid that thinks 2, 3, 4 moves ahead.
Now, is the wrestling that you do, is that co-ed?
Yes, we so for the youth, we're folk style. For people that are listening that do wrestling, they'll understand the difference between folk style, freestyle, and Greco-Roman. So we are a folk style wrestling team. When you watch the Olympics, that is freestyle and Greco-Roman. So in folk style, you're more rewarded for controlling a person, holding them down against their will the entire match. So for girls, when they go to college, it's freestyle. I don't know. I think the future will tell us if that's the successful path or not. I don't know. I right now tend to think it's not, but it is what it is right now. So that's what you have to work towards. So for Pennsylvania, I think one of the reasons why we did so well at Fargo, especially the girls, is because they wrestle folk style. And it's easier to get into freestyle from folk style, I think, than it is to get into folk style from freestyle. So girls wrestling, I would say up until about maybe 11 or 12 years old, when puberty hits boys, they're equal, if not maybe even a little advantageous over the boys, because sometimes they're smarter, girls at young ages. Sometimes I think they're better at pattern recognition. I think it's built into their DNA better. They notice with social cues, they notice patterns faster, and they're quicker to realize, I don't have to really beat you. I can just snap you down and go behind. I don't worry about trying to take. So I noticed that girls do stuff a little bit quicker than boys. So girls wrestle boys, and it really doesn't make a difference until puberty starts hitting, when boys start just out muscling them. And then girls that want to still be successful wrestling against boys, say from 13 to 14 before high school, they have to learn better hand fighting techniques. They have to use more judo style of wrestling, where you use aggression and the weight against the boys. because very few of the young ladies are going to be able to go toe to toe muscling with the boys.
I had a young lady who wrestled high school wrestling, and you know, the parents were, you know, very big on her. You know, she was in MMA, and they were talking about how, you know, she was going to be the next Ronda Rousey, and she was strong. You know, she was, you know, undeniably she was strong. But and you've heard the story, but I had one of my laziest hockey players, a high school hockey player. Now these are two kids that were same year in high school. I put them up against each other in conditioning. So it was a cold winter day, brutally cold, like the kind of cold where the sky is slate gray and there's little snowflakes coming out, but there's no clouds. And we had a root hog sled. A root hog sled's about, for those that don't know, a root hog sled's about 120 pounds, and the surface of it is about half the size of this table. So I had them run. They were doing 200-yard sprints with it. So, no, I'm sorry, 100-yard sprint. So the deal was, the lazy kid was going to go first. She's going to go second. I said, but if you send them, you got to go. If you tell them go, you got to go. On the 8th trip, she broke down and cried like a 5-year-old girl. Now we have a bell. We have a ship's bell by the door. Rang the bell, never came back. And I went, wow, the laziest kid in the room outworked her. She's never going to fight Ronda Rousey. All right, so I'm going, if the laziest kid in the room can outwork you, you're never fighting Ronda Rousey. So, you know, she was successful at the local level, but never really, I looked at that and I went, it's never going to happen, and it never did.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's often a talk that I have because I played sports. I mean, if you played sports, you know that there's differences after puberty. And I just wanted to see what your perspective on it, and I think it's pretty accurate. Like, you know, they're up to a certain age, they're pretty much equal, and then it becomes technique for the females to be the workhorse. And they're out there. There's girls out there in UFC. You can see them. They're brutal. They can fight a guy, but that's far and few in between without proper coaching, technique, and conditioning.
We've seen that in hockey. You know, with youth hockey. You know, the young girls can compete with the boys until puberty, because when puberty hits, the hitting starts, and when that hitting starts, you know, getting hit by a kid that's, you know, they're done. You know, they have to go. They end up playing with all girls. It's over.
Now, to be fair, one of the wrestlers currently that I admire the most is a young lady named Audrey Jimenez. She's from Arizona. 2 years ago, maybe 3 now, gosh, she had a lawsuit because Arizona split boys and girls. And they said, if you're a girl, you have to wrestle with the girls. Which, believe me, I think ultimately is what has to happen for the girl sports. I don't think it's right for the girls to have to compete with boys. And for the really good girls, you kind of have to, right now, you have to force them to wrestle with the girls. And no, they're not getting the best. It's tough. There's no, what's the right answer? I don't know. So I understand what they were trying to do. So my thing was, well, maybe you should say, listen, this is the way it's going to work. Girls have to wrestle with girls. If they want, they can wrestle with the boys, but they have to wrestle with the girls first. Then they can wrestle with the boys. Because what happened here for Audrey was there was nobody in the girls that could wrestle with her. None. And she won 16 and under worlds. There's nobody in the girls in the state of Arizona that could compete with her. So they sued, and they won their case, and she got to wrestle with the boys, and she won the state championship at 106 pounds as a girl. But if you look at her, I mean, she takes her strength conditioning very seriously. She's a very technical wrestler, very good wrestler, and she was able to win. And she goes to Lehigh University here in Pennsylvania. Lehigh is one of the big
top wrestling schools.
Yeah, one of the big RTCs for freestyle for Olympics, and so she's attending there. And so I when I think of girls wrestling boys in high school, when I think of where that part of the sport's going to go, I think of her. I think about all the discussions I read online while the lawsuits were going on and how I felt about it. I sympathize with both sides. And at the ICWL, we're having the same conversation right now. You know, we got girls that, yeah, they can whip most boys, but it's not fair to the other girls that can't whip most boys to not have the ability to compete against other girls and have to compete with the boys.
Well, don't those higher level girls then bring up, like, you know, to your Kennedy quote about bringing up the tide? Brings everybody up.
Well, only if they're in the same pool.
Okay.
You can raise the water level in a pool over here. It's not going to affect
Not going to
over
affect
here.
it on the okay.
So
All right.
in my opinion,
Yep.
the girls over here are entitled to the experience of wrestling the best wrestlers. And if we continue to let the girls that are the best wrestlers wrestle only boys, then the other girls they're never going to. I use this analogy all the time. You know, when you're crawling, you're moving along pretty good, and then you learn how to stand and walk, and you're like, man, that crawling's slow. And then you learn how to run, and you're like, man, I thought walking was fast. Then you learn how to ride a bike, and you're like, man, this is even faster. And then you get to a car, and then you get to a plane. So, but you don't know what fast is until you're sitting in the seat of the next vehicle.
Yep.
And if you keep denying the girls that vehicle to understand, oh my God, I never thought. Because I know this was for me, some of the epiphany moments I had was when I was wrestling with people that I never knew someone could move that fast. I never knew someone could be that strong, that fast. And it was like an epiphany, I call it. There's epiphany moments in wrestling. And you have to, in my opinion, give everybody that option and that chance to wrestle the best. You never know. Maybe you are that good, but you'll never experience it if we continue to say, okay, only the best girls go wrestle with the boys, and that's that. So it has to, in my opinion, eventually be broken off. We're not going to grow the sport if we have 3 girls in a bracket, because 4 other girls are wrestling in the boys' bracket. You know, then the girl, she knows, people, listen, as hard as they work, as hard as they wrestle, they know in their heart of hearts, you know, if Jackie Smith had been in there, I wouldn't have won first place. And we don't want people to feel that way. We want people to feel, hey, I won 4th place, and dang it, I'm entitled to 4th place. I won first place, I'm entitled to first place. That's how I feel about it. And I think they're getting there. I think they're taking their time. And I think the start is, okay, you're going to have to double bracket, and that's that. And then if we, as a culture of wrestling, can find a way that they can do that and not have to wrestle the same day, I think that would be best for everybody. And then, but there has to be a more time period on that. You know, not a moratorium, but there has to be look, in 5 years this stops, so get ready.
I think it's really what you're saying is like how much you don't want to limit the girl who's extremely good, but nobody else is going to. If you're not wrestling somebody better than you, if you're not boxing somebody better, if you're not playing somebody better than you, you're not going to get better.
You're not going to aspire to get better.
But you're not even going to get better. Nothing's pushing you at that point.
You don't even know. That's my analogy with the fast. You think you're fast on a bike till you're in a car. If you don't experience it, it's metaphysical, right? It's above your ability to even comprehend it until you see it and experience it.
All right, gentlemen, we're at about 1 hour and 3 minutes. So, pretty good?
Oh, yeah, sure.
Thanks
Thank
for coming.
you.
Thanks for
I
being
hope
with
I
us.
did all right.
You did fine. It was great. I appreciate your time.